What is up? Good morning, everyone. Uh, it is a chilly, windy, cold morning in Pennsylvania, coming at you bright and early, 8 a.m. here. I hope you guys are up, ready to go. If not, I hope you're excited to get this lesson going when you watch. So, today's lesson, we'll be going over top position, excuse me. Pressure and breakdowns. Just kind of recapping the last two lessons that we did on bottom. Some of the things that were really important were making sure that you get to your feet as much as possible. That's going to cause this guy to have to lift and return, which most guys don't want to do too much. We learned about elbow fighting and sealing off, which is going to be very important because we don't want to be grabbing hands. I'm going to show you how, as a top wrestler, you can force your opponent to use their hands, which gives you a way to regrab, which will make a lot of these turns kind of feed into each other. Hopefully, they come a little bit easier. Talked about finding the pressure, whether it be coming from side to side, left to right, or right to left, or whether the pressure is coming directly over your head. Um, you're going to have two different ways of getting to your feet. Coming from side to side, you've got to find the pressure and turn with it. Put your back to the pressure. When it's coming from back to front, um, we've got our knee slides, we've got our changeovers and our switches, and then we've got our power stand up. So those are going to be the options when the pressure is coming back to front. So if you need a little refresher, please go back, check out those two lessons on bottom. Today, when we get to talking about our top wrestling, you're going to be talking about how do we defeat the things that we just said were important in the last two lessons. So guys that get to their feet a lot, how are we going to make sure that we are successful at getting mat returns? When you're applying pressure left to right or right to left, or front to back, how do we keep that pressure from building our opponent up as opposed to breaking them down? So that's going to require, some wrestling skill there. And then how do we win the elbow fight that's bound to happen when you're wrestling a good wrestler, someone who's not going to fall into the trap of necessarily grabbing your hands right away or giving you easy regrabs. So we're gonna kind of go through those. Um, that's really it. So just wanted to remind you guys the rest of this week today we've got Coach Steven Rivera and his son Seabass from the University of Northwestern or Northwestern University. So really excited to see what Coach Rivera is doing. The guy puts out quality wrestlers all of the time. Just look at the results of his son. So I'm excited for those guys. Tomorrow we've got Josh Kindig, NCAA runner-up, and then Friday kicks off World Champion Week. We'll be starting off with three-time world champion Mr. Lee Kemp. He'll be coming to us from California. I am so excited to be able to get you guys some of the best clinicians and best wrestlers that I could find, and to really be able to bring you a week of world champion technique and lessons. So starting Friday, we've got Coach Lee Kemp. I'm excited about that. And last thing, just want to remind you, so we're now about a week away from the end of our shoe raffle. I have been told that Rudis is donating the shoes to be customized. So you will get a brand new pair of Rudis shoes that will be customized however you'd like, working along with Allison Lucerne from Lucerne Customs. Donations here, $5 donation is an entry. Also, for a week of lessons, you can submit up to 2 full pages of notes. Those will be each full page will be considered an entry, or entries to the highlighted charities. any of the Beat the Streets organizations, Joe Heskett's GoFundMe, or Phil Abundance. If you look at the announcement section on the Facebook page, those will be there. So now that we've got all of the housekeeping out of the way, let's get started with wrestling. Let's get our warm up in, and then we'll move on to the technique. Hope you guys are excited today. Good mindset is one of the things that you can control. And when it comes to wrestling, and especially when it comes to life, we want to make sure that we control the controllables. All right. So that being said, all right, start with some jumping jacks. It's a little bit chillier in here than normal, so we're going to go with 20 for me. All right, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Good. Let's get some of these mountain climbing burpees in. All right. Let's do 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job. All right. A little bit of gymnastics. Help warm up the body. Start with our forward rolls. I like to do 2 each. Backward rolls. Cartwheels. Shoulder rolls. Left shoulder. Right shoulder. Our head bumps. Good. Get some push-ups in. Then do 10. You can count them out yourself. Ready, go. 5. Good. Get some sit-ups in. I like to do my suitcase style. Do yours how you want. Get 10 and go. 5. And 10. Since it's a little cold here, we're going to make sure that we stretch really good today. All right. We're working on top. We're going to be doing lifts and returns, so make sure your hips and back and neck and everything are nice and loose. So getting on your front bridge, roll out your necks. All right, try to make sure you're getting side to side, front to back. Good, and flip. Back bridge. Want to make sure we're getting our hips nice and stretched out. Our lower backs, mid back. All right, get your feet locked in. Extend out into your bridge. Good. Try and make sure you're getting everywhere. Good. Last stretch. I want to make sure I stretch out my groin. Gets very tight as we start to get into some of these rides. We want to make sure that we are applying pressure, as I start to talk about, and being able to control my opponent's hips. All right, so that's really going to be what control is from the top position. It's going to be if I can control where my opponent's hips are and where they're going, then I'll be able to control the whole position. So that's where we're headed. But just like every match, we're going to start on our feet with our shadow wrestling. So just bringing up Facebook so that if you guys have questions, I can hear you and see you. So use this time really quick to give a shout out to everyone that's on. Once again, my buddy Thomas on Zoom. Good morning, sir. I'm glad you were with me earlier this morning. Thank you for checking in. Juliet Shear, thank you for checking in. Angela Lance, thank you for checking in. So we're going to start on our feet, stance in motion. All right, nice little movement here. Butt down, remember our good wrestling position. Butt down, head and chin up, elbows in. All right, open up your chest, start moving around. Remember, whenever you're on a wrestling mat, your feet have to be moving. All right, if you have stationary feet, you're either giving up a takedown or you're about to. All right, we're moving around, practicing our basic skills of wrestling. All right, I keep these out here every single day because they are so important. All right, stance, motion, level change, penetration, body arch, lift, and back step. All right, good, break. Nice little 30 seconds. Get us warmed up. All right, about to go into round number 2. Go about 45. Okay, ready, go. Good. Staying nice and tight in your stance. All right, keeping your chin up. Now we've got our level changes. Remember, as we level change, all right, we're right leg lead, guys. Your back hand checks your level, checks your distance. Okay, check your level, check your distance. Here's your penetration. Hips come forward. Good. Keep it moving. Keep your feet moving. Penetration. Good. We still got our feet moving. Elbows in. Practicing our 7 basics. Penetrate. Good. Almost done here. Keep your feet moving. And time. Getting ready for third. We're going to go through 4 rounds of this. Okay. Just checking on that. Cool. Ready to get right back to it. This one's going to be about a minute. Ready. And go. So now we're in our stance. We're going to start putting together some of our basic wrestling skills that we learned in some of our other lessons. Remember our sprawl, straight leg, right back into your stance. We've got our down blocks. All right, we've got our offensive shot, reshot, which is going to be 1 shot, 2 shots. All right, 1 shot, 2 shots. We've got our defensive shot, reshot. It's going to be defend and re-attack. Okay, checking our level, checking our distance, making sure our opponent's within our range. All right, we've got our fakes, which is everything but a shot. Everything but a shot. Your shot and your fake should look exactly the same. Okay, keep your feet moving. About halfway there. Good. Defending, attacking. Down blocks. Don't let them get past your defense. Hands, head, arms, hips. All right, you want to keep them off your hips. Butt down, head up. Elbows in. Time. We're going to do 1 more. Make sure our bodies are nice and warm before we start moving on the mat. All right. Ready.
And go. Good. So last one, last minute. Make sure you get all the movements that you want to. Practice your hand fighting. Remember, right here, this is so important. I really want to visualize my opponent in front of me. All right? I want to visualize my movement. I want to visualize pulling on his head. All right? Reach with my backhand and pull. There goes my sweep. Okay? I can pull, sweep, tight crotch. But I need to be visualizing exactly what I want to happen here. All right? Almost done. And time.
Good. All right. So, Ralph Palone, thank you very much. All you guys checking in to watch,
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. All right. Hope you guys are going to enjoy today. Once again, got my buddy Keyway here. So,
first things I want to talk about when we're talking about top wrestling. All right. So,
remember what this bottom guy's goal is, okay? This guy wants to get to his feet.
all right. So,
we've got to have some mat returns from here. So I'm going to show you just my basic lift return. All right, we're going to go over a little back trip return, and then we're going to drop down to our shots for returns. All right, so if we can't stop him from getting to his feet, we have to be able to return this guy. And we've got to have a little bit more determination to make sure that he stays down than he does to want to get to his feet. So the next thing that we've got to worry about is we've got to be giving this guy pressure. So if this guy starts finding our pressure, all right, we've got to be able to control his hips. So right here, I'm giving him pressure, but Keyway's in a good wrestling position. Look, his back is straight, his elbows are in, his head's over top of his hips. So from here, now I have to use my hands to be able to move my opponent. All right, so whatever side I can get under, that's the side I need to go to. And so this is going to require that not only as I'm giving him pressure, do I change which way my pressure goes? So if I'm giving him pressure from right to left, basically right here, then I can move my feet faster than this guy can readjust. Here, that's going to allow me to break him down. And then the third thing that we talked about that was major is this guy's elbow fight. This guy's elbow fight. So if Keyway's trying to fight out, I have to do my job of trying to put the weight on his hands so that his elbow fight and hand fight becomes ineffective. So he's trying to fight my hands from here, and if I don't give him pressure to force his hands down to the mat, it's going to be really hard for me to keep control of this guy. All right? Second, as he starts the hand fight, I'm going to go to a supinated grip. All right? I'm going to keep my hands supinated. And the reason I want to do that is because when my hands are out like this, I can always grab. All right? When my hands go down, now I have to move them like I'm playing a piano. But from this position, with my hands up, anytime my opponent goes to attack my lock, it gives me something to grab onto. All right? If my hands are facing down and Keyway grabs it, I can't re-grab. But if my hand's facing up and Keyway grabs my hand, I can re-grab his. All right? So I want you keeping those things in the back of your mind as we're going through these. And the last major thing is I want you to think about a breakdown in two different ways. So a breakdown is both good position, which we're going to talk about, applying pressure, keeping your chin over your opponent's shoulder, putting the weight on his hands. But breakdowns are also wrestling moves. All right, so just like we have a single leg takedown where it's an actual wrestling move, we're hitting a technique, keeping our elbows in, elevating the leg off the mat, yada, yada. We also have just good wrestling position, which is going to be our elbows in, our head up, and our chest up. So a breakdown is actually going to require both of these things, and they're almost interchangeable depending on what part of the breakdown you're working on. Once we take a guy from his base to the mat, then the breakdown, getting them from their base to the mat normally requires some sort of wrestling action. Can't just apply pressure to a guy and hope that he falls over. But once we either get them broken down or we're finding it really hard to break them off of their base, we should be able to transition into our rides, which turn into our turning maneuvers, our top techniques. So first thing I want to emphasize is going to be the position in which I ride my opponent. So one of the things that's important is, and your coach probably tells you this all the time, is staying off your knees when you're on top, all right? So the one thing, I want to try and put all of my weight and his weight on his hands, all right? Put your hands back and forth on the mat so there's no weight there. All right, Kiwi can move his hands all he wants. He can lift them up off the mat, nice and easy. Even if I put my weight, even if I'm off my toes, off my knees and on my toes, there's still no weight on his hands here. All right, so my chin is below his shoulder. I need to get my chin over his shoulder. Now, as Kiwi goes to try and lift his hands, he starts to fall forward. All right. He's going to lean back, and then I'm going to put my weight forward over his shoulder. He goes to lift his hands. He's going to break himself down, all right? So the first thing is we need to ride with our chin above their shoulder. Now, this is going to feel very awkward for all of you guys who don't currently do this. First of all, what it's going to feel like is I'm way too high, all right? That this guy can just grab my head, pull me over, and he's going to be able to hit a switch or a Granby and come right out. But the main point of this is that if all the weight's on his hands, that no matter what he wants to do, the first thing he has to do is move his weight off of his hands, okay? The second most important thing about this is making sure that I'm staying underneath of his arms. Now, do I all of the time need to be underneath both of his arms? The short answer is no. The best answer is yes, all right? If I stay underneath both of my opponent's arms with my chin over their shoulder, all right, I'm going to have a really good chance of keeping this guy on the mat. Now, if I stay directly behind him and do it, the referee's going to hit me for stalling, all right? Even if I come out to the side, all right, out here, like I said, it's going to feel like you don't have any control over this guy. My chest is right over the top of Kiwi's shoulder blades. All right, look, he's readjusting because he's carrying both of our weights. It's not very comfortable. All right, when I'm out to the side with my chin over his shoulder, all right, it's not very comfortable for him to hold us both up. Now, staying underneath both of his arms is going to mean that I can attack whichever way I want. He's going to have to take the weight off of his hands. And then once he takes the weight off of his hands, he's going to have to deal with my hands, all right? So what we're doing as the top guy is basically setting up roadblocks along the way to an escape or a reversal. So the first thing is putting the weight on his hands, putting the weight over his hands, all right? The second thing is staying underneath of his arm. Now, if I can't stay underneath both arms, all right? Just like we always talk about, the inside arm is the most important one. And because I'm the guy applying pressure, I get to decide which one that is. So let's say we're here and I'm underneath both arms. Kiwi decides he's going to seal off on the right side. So when he does, I'm going to shift my pressure to the left on the side that I'm still underneath. Because if I'm still underneath on this side, this is the way that I want to break it down. All right? This is the inside. That's the side that I need to control. If I only control the outside, all right, I'm on his left side. He's got me sealed off here, but I'm underneath on the other side. If he just turns in to face me, I don't have much to hold on to. As a matter of fact, when he turns, he comes right over the underhook. Okay? So this is why the inside arm is the most important arm to control. All right. So once we're controlling underneath both arms, all right. When we talk about breakdowns, it's kind of like I just mentioned. We want to make sure we're breaking down either from the side that we're inside, so I can go break down across, all right? Or I want to pull to this side. So the way I want to structure this is we're going to start and work our way back down to the mat. So let's work on our mat returns, okay? So Keithway's coming to his feet. He's a very good wrestler. This guy's a two-time PA state qualifier, all right? So the first things that I need to understand about this position are my hands have to be locked, all right? As I feel this guy coming up from bottom, as I feel my opponent start to come up, right, the first things I need to do is make sure that I get to my lock. All right, now, the way that I like to do this is I get my lock to one side of his body. So my lock's in the center, I'm gonna pick a side. All right, so I picked the right side. Now I'm gonna bring my belt buckle to my lock. Lock's on the right side, belt buckle to my lock. My feet are going to be facing the same direction, all right? Right here, about shoulder width apart, same direction. And then my lift is going to be down, and then my hips are going to come forward. So, right here, locks on the hip, belt buckle to lock, feet, I'm going to lift, and then my hips are going to go out. When my hips go out, my hands are going to go up and down. All right, I'm going to make this motion myself. I'm going to go up and pull down. It's going to look like this. Hop. Okay? You should be in control the whole time. Got my hands locked, put my belt buckle on my lock, pop my hips, arms come up and down. All right? Basic lift return. If you're having trouble lifting the guy up, he's attacking your lock. All right? Remember, the closer my hips get, the easier it is for me to lift. So when you feel yourself starting to create this space, all right, use your feet. Keithway's going to try and create some space. He's getting his hips away. I'm going to use my feet so I can lift and return. All right, so that's our first one. Second mat return. Now, you're wrestling a good opponent, okay? I go to lift, he blocks, he stops, I can't get his feet off the mat, okay? Now what we're gonna do is our back trip mat return. The way I like to describe this is, so once we get our lock, the first thing we should be trying to do is lift, okay? My opponent stops my lift, however he does. Locks on my hips, but what that does is, that forces his weight back into me, all right? If I go to lift and my opponent doesn't put weight back into me, all right, then I'm really going to be able to take him for a ride on a second lift attempt. So right here, when we back trip, our seventh basic skill, back step. All right, watch my footwork here. I'm going to step behind my foot. All right, not in front. I'm not crossing my feet. There's a difference here in the way that my weight shifts when I step behind as opposed to when I step in front. All right, so step behind and then readjust your foot so that his heel is halfway across your shoe. All right. I'm going to put my foot so that his heel is halfway across my foot. I go to lift, he stops, I back step right here. Now, all I need to do is sit and bring my lock to my stomach. Sit, bring my lock to my stomach. The reason I'm going to sit and not pull is because I don't want to pull this guy on top of me. What I don't want to do is do this. Okay? I need my motion to be circular so that this guy can't catch his balance. All right? So remember, first attempt, go to lift, he blocks, I back step, pull, and sit. We're right back to the mat where I need to be. All right, so lift return, our back trip. Now the last one, I use this for, I can't lift. He's got good balance, I can't back trip. This is my third option, or this is my first option whenever my lock gets broken or my opponent gets to their feet without me having a lock. Keep weighing down on the mat. He's coming up to his feet. Right here, I don't get a chance to get my hands locked. He's got two hands on one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, normally I'll take the hand that he's attacking. That hand goes low. When I say low, all I want you to do is go right between his legs. Okay, my opponent's trying to isolate, keep hand control. Take this away from him, right here. I want you to reach nice and deep. I want you to reach nice and deep so you can say hi to your mom as she's watching you wrestle. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the shoulder position. Right here. I adjust the shoulder position, and then I just finish like I would any takedown. Okay? Get my hands locked. I'm going to grab leg elevate. I can split and finish. I can lift from here. All right. Once I get the shoulder position, I can switch to stinky shoulder position. Run this guy down. All right. But you've got to remember the most important thing about switching off to that single leg. Once your lock gets broken is you have to get to shoulder position. All right. The one thing that I cannot do is I cannot have broken hands. All right. And then I try and drop to a leg without shoulder position. So I can't try and drop to a leg with the hand they're attacking being my front side hand. So this doesn't work because this hand isn't really holding on to anything. This isn't keeping him, this isn't stopping him from getting the escape. This is the hand that would stop him from getting the escape. This is the top hand. So when I try and make this hand the one that I use to keep attacking, Kiwi's going to get his hips away. All right, I had nothing to hold on to. So this is why when our lock gets broken and they pick the side, that side is the low hand. Okay, you don't get a choice in this matter anymore. So this hand is low, so it stays low. My top hand over here stays high. All right, I want to stay from around his waist, and I just want to get both my hands in between his legs. All right, this is my front side hand. This was the hand he was attacking. All right, it went low, got to my front side. I can grab leg elevate and look, put all the weight there. I can drive across, break this guy down. All right, so it's very important that we understand when our hands are broken, which way we need to go. Even if I'm here and he attacks this other hand, okay? This was the inside hand, right? So this is the hand. This is my inside hand. This hand still has to go low, all right? Even though it's front side. He's keeping this front side hand here. I'm not going to be able to switch it around back. This hand goes low, all right? This back hand is the high hand. See how it's above my low hand? This is going to stop him from getting the escape. Now from here, because he chose my front hand, I'm going to get my shoulder position, stinky shoulder. All right, turn it face up, lift your left arm up. See right here, my shoulder's out of position. Okay, it's out to the side. This is the result of Kiwi having a really good stand-up. Okay, I need to adjust to my shoulder position, and then I can finish back down to the mat. All right, so our 3 breakdowns, break these down so that we understand how we're getting our opponent back to the mat. So guys, I just want to reiterate, put this out there. Not that I think all of this is the best or the only way to do things, but I do like to think that if you start with these techniques, if you start with these as your most basic decisions that you're making while you're wrestling, that all of the other things that your coach has for you, all of the other techniques that you've learned along the way will still be there as options, but that if you don't do these first, that these are taken away from you as options. So you've got to be able, so we're trying to stop when our opponent comes to their feet. So we've got a mat return, okay? And with our mat returns, we had 3 of them. Had our basic, lift return, lift return. We had our back trip. Remember, this requires skill number 7, which is our back step. And then our third one is going to be single leg mat return. And that's going to require you to diagnose which hand needs to go low, which hand needs to go high. And we're really focusing on shoulder position. So we can get this guy back down to the mat now. All right. That's a good start. We're able to get this guy to the mat. Now, once we get him to the mat, now we've got to break him down flat because there's not going to be a lot of technique that's going to come from a guy being on their base. All right, so we've got to break this guy down. And so when I talked about earlier, breakdown as position, which was making sure that we're off of our knees, that our chin is above our opponent's shoulder, and that we're actually giving pressure either from side to side or from front to back. All right, I'll just show you what those two pressures look like really easily one more time. So remember my sideways pressure. So if I break this guy's back in half, all right, I cut Keepway's back in half, my chest should be on the top half. All right, I shouldn't really have anything touching this bottom half unless it's my own hips. So when I'm out to the side, like my coach and the referee is going to be telling me, all right, I get my chin up over his shoulder, I'm going to push with my feet. All right, I'm going to push with my feet, and then I'm going to ride my skateboard to keep the pressure on. All right, so how do you ride a skateboard? You push with one foot. All right, so when I push with one foot, I'm going to constantly keep the pressure on my foot. Now, the other way, instead of going side to side, and it's really not a direct left to right, it's diagonal across the shoulder. All right, if we were talking freestyle and Greco technique, we'd be driving diagonally for our gut wrenches, and we're actually going to be driving diagonally for our tilts and turns like that. So, and then the other type of pressure, this front to back pressure. All right, this is going to have basic two forms. Okay, so we can have the cover the hips form, which is still going to be under the arms, chin up over the shoulder, off my knees, right here, and I'm going to cover his hips. So imagine I could sit on this lower half of Keepway's back, all right, and then my chest goes over his head. I come off of my knees, right here, this pressure, look where my chest is, on the top half of his back, and then I start riding my skateboard again. I push, that's going to keep all the weight on his hand. Now, I know you think, oh, I'm too far forward, but where's Keepway going to go from here? If he starts to turn to change the pressure, remember we're applying pressure front to back. If he turns, he's not going to go anywhere. All right, so he's got a knee slide, he's got a power stand up. Those are going to be his options. All right, so that's one way to give pressure front to back. All right, and then the other way is with a knee drive. All right, so I like it. You can call this a stinky knee or whatever, but I really want my knee right on his butt so that I can force with my legs, force the weight from here forward. All right, so when I drive front to back, all right, I'm literally going to start with, imagine my knee starts right in his back and I slide down right to where his tailbone is. And when I drive, I'm actually pushing with my other foot, and this foot, its whole job is to stop from going backwards. So I push, and then this foot stays. So if Keepway tries to bring his hip back, he can't go back through my knee. All right, and what that's going to allow us to do is once we put the weight on his hands, if we keep our knee there, it'll either force this guy to make a mistake by attacking that leg, or all the weight will be on his hands, so we'll be able to attack the pressure. All right, so when we talk about breakdowns as moves, All right, I'm gonna show you the only wrestling move that I know that does not have a direct counter. All right, every other move that I know in wrestling has a counter, except for this one, and this is why it's my favorite breakdown. All right, so a simple far ankle, far knee. Now, because it's simple, that means that there's a lot of details that change it from being good to very good to excellent. All right, so far ankle, far knee. So wrestling is a sport for dummies. All right, it helps if you're smart, but you don't have to be. When I say do a single leg takedown, I'm hoping that you grab one leg. When I say do a double leg takedown, I'm hoping that you grab two. And when I say far ankle, far knee, I'm hoping that you grab the ankle and the knee. All right. So when I say far ankle, far knee, that doesn't mean far shin and far thigh. All right. This isn't a breakdown. It means far ankle and far knee. And then for me, I need to get my shoulder in position in the pocket. All right, this little pocket. I like to believe that God was a wrestler. All right, and God created wrestling handles all over the human body. Okay, one of those handles is right here at your hips. I can always grab someone by their hip. Another one is right here with the armpits. I can always grab someone by their armpits. All right, and then the back of their neck. So God created these wrestling handles. And so one of those is where my shoulder goes on my far ankle, far knee breakdown. And the reason my shoulder's got to go all the way to his hip is because it is really hard. You see my hand here down low, this hand moving. It's really hard to get all the way to this guy's knee if my shoulder is in his ribs. All right? If my shoulder's up here in Keepway's ribs, all right, I've got these little T-Rex arms. I can't get to his knee. I end up on his thigh, which isn't nearly as effective as trying to break this guy down because I'm trying to pull against a big giant muscle. As a matter of fact, it's the biggest muscle groups that we have in our body, and trying to fight with my little teeny biceps and my little teeny triceps against his big giant thigh, it's just not going to work. All right. So when I go far ankle, far knee breakdown, shoulder slides into the pocket. I'm at the ankle. I'm at the knee. And when I drive, I push with my feet like I'm on a sled, and I pull in with my arms. Here. All right? Right here. Referee blows the whistle. I'm going far ankle, far knee. Outside hand slides under. Shoulder slides down to the pocket. I'm at the knee. I'm at the ankle. And I drive and pull. All right? Once again, we've created this stack knee position. All right, we've talked about this a bunch. This stack knee position shows up in wrestling a lot. We've got to understand how to win this position. Isolate the low leg, right? Isolate the low leg, grab it, and elevate it. Anytime I can grab a low leg and elevate it, right? And I broke down from here. I grab this low leg and elevate it. I've got Turks. I've got arm Turks. I've got low leg cradles. All right, so this breakdown can be really effective if you understand where the position goes from. All right, so we've got our far ankle, far knee breakdown. That's our number one. All right, my second one is my spiral ride. Now, there's two variations on the spiral. We've got our short claw spiral. Short claw just means that my claw and my feet are on the same side. All right, my claw and my feet are on the same side. Long claw is claw and feet are on opposite sides. All right, but either one is really effective for a spiral ride breakdown. Now, the spiral ride breakdown requires that I apply pressure with my bottom hand. All right, the top hand is what pulls the weight to his hands. That's what a claw does. All right, when I have a claw on the short side, Keepway's trying to come up to his feet. All right, he's trying to get his hands off the mat. This claw is meant to pull the weight onto his hands. Pull. All right, I pull the weight onto his hands. Now my pressure should do the rest. Okay, so I'm pulling here. My pressure should do the rest. And now what this does is I want to get as close to his knee as possible. If I try and pry from the inside of his thigh, once again, we're working against a huge muscle group. All right, the further we get away from that muscle group, this knee becomes a really good focal point, which can open up his hip. And once his hip gets opened up, we take away a lot of the strength from his base. All right, the reason that Keepway's nice and strong here is because his base is really solid, and we want to disassemble his base like a cheap IKEA set. All right, so I'm going to show you long claw. All right, or I'll start off with long claw, and I've got my spiral flank. I'm going to move closer to his knee, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my arm and I'm going to straighten it out. All right, so once I get to here, I'm going to straighten out my arm. As you can see, that takes Keepway's knee off the mat. All right, straighten out my arm, and now my pressure is going to go around his head. Imagine that as I pull, I want to put the weight on one arm instead of trying to put it on both. Right there, that breakdown. Get that knee up off the mat, and I'm breaking him down to that side. All right, as you see, this is the side that collapsed first. That's what I want because now I've got this inside completely open. It's going to allow me to go cross wrist, short claw, half, cross face cradle, lift and Turk, whatever I want. All right, so remember this claw, I'm pulling with it. My flank hand is opening up the hip like a can opener. All right, and we've got short claw and long claw variation there. Now, when we talk about breaking down from the short claw, all right, they're just a little bit different than the long claw. My short claw is going to lead to a lot of inside wrist and cross wrist technique. All right, so imagine I've got short claw. I'm opening this guy up. I want to come inside wrist technique. All right, inside wrist technique is going to be put my pinky next to his, and then his hand comes all the way in. All right, so inside wrist, pinky to pinky. All right, I'm grabbing the outside of his hand. And then what I want to do is I want to try and rotate his elbow all the way towards his face. See how he starts to turn if I push his elbow? Doesn't feel good. The body isn't meant to move that way. So when I grab this and roll, I use my elbow. And if I can put my shoulder over top of his as I drive, this is what keeps the guy down. Weight on his shoulder, down on the mat. Okay? My long claw breakdown. Okay. Now, I don't know where you're watching from. Hopefully it's somewhere nice and far, and I hope this is getting out to everyone everywhere. So with my long claw breakdown, I'm going to act like a socket wrench. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly tighten as I break his position all the way down. All right. So got my long claw. I'm providing flank, putting pressure, and I'm just slowly just going to march right down his arm. And so once I get right above his elbow, I get a good grip on his tricep. I've now taken out his post, which means that with pressure on his hands, he can't support himself and myself. And that's how we're going to get guys broken down. All right. And so our very last breakdown, it seems simple, all right, but the one thing that makes it a little bit tougher is we're not getting both hands underneath to break this guy down like we're doing with our claws. All right. So we're not going to be doing that. We're just going to be doing a basic chop, pry, jam. All right. So we talked about this knee pressure coming straight up his butt. This chop, pry, jam is one of those front to back or back to front pressures. And so as I chop, the one thing I want to do is I don't want to try and go strength on strength. All right, I'm actually going to rotate his elbow out. What that's going to do is I'm going to put my elbow in tight. I'm going to rotate his elbow out so that it makes it easier for his elbow not to bend. So I don't want his elbows to bend this way. I want his elbow to bend this way. All right. If I can get his elbow to bend this way, then it's going to be really easy to break him down. If I get his elbows to bend this way, he uses his elbows as a post. So when I turn, so this is going to be part of my chop. I chop and turn. All right, and then as I jam, I want to try and put him on this shoulder. There. All right. Now, once I put him on the shoulder, I have to get my chin up above his shoulder to apply pressure, or I can use one of my wrestling handles to pull his hips down. All right. This is one of my favorite ways to break a guy down is once I can get his hips above his head, now I'm going to pull his hips down to the same level. So imagine from here, I'm going to pull his hips down to the same level. All right. So once again, remember I'm turning and pulling this, all right? Pulling this so that his elbow, look how his elbow turns in. It's turned in towards his belly. Right here, if I go to pull, his elbow is going to go out towards his ribs. All right, so turning this in, I'm doing it on this side. All right, so turning this in, and as I chop and I get his head down, now I come with my wrestling handle and I pull. Right here, I pull him to this stack knee position. Now, this isn't ideal because I can't really attack it from here. All right, but what this is going to do is, as he goes to find some base, all right, I'm going to be able to apply pressure that keeps him flat on the mat. All right, so basically we've got 4 breakdowns that I really like from here. So we did our mat returns. Now we're breaking guys down. So first one, my favorite, far ankle, far knee. And remember, wrestling's for dummies, so don't grab a hip, don't grab a shin. Far ankle, far knee. We've got our short claw and long claw from our spiral, so our spiral short claw. Our spiral long claw. Either one of these can have a hip pull or any other technique from there. And then our last one is chop. It's really a chop and turn. Chop and turn, pry, jam. All right. And the jam comes from the knee. And that pressure is back to front. All right. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is what happens when we can actually get this guy broken down. All right. And what is our kind of mindset while we're on top? So we started by lifting this guy up and bringing him back to the mat. Showed you 3 ways to do that. We talked about staying underneath of his arms. Our supinated and re-grab grip, talked about that briefly, and then we went over our breakdowns. So now what happens once we break this guy down? You've got to be able to keep the pressure on him, whether it's side to side, back to front. All right, and so what we're going to be doing then is now we start getting into our turns. So I'm going to decide, hold on one sec, we got a comment. Let's see what we got here. Oh, thanks, Thomas. So I broke this guy down. All right, I went to my short claw, I pulled him down, I kept my weight forward. Right here, I got him broken down. All right, now the one thing I can't do is I can't take my pressure off of him once I did all of this hard work to break him down, because then he comes right back up. All right, so making sure that I keep my pressure on him, whether it be from the side or whether it be back to front, but I've got to make sure I keep my pressure on him. Now, the next thing about staying underneath of his arm, this is going to lead us to most of our turns, all right? But the one thing that happens is if we come out over an arm, we have to be able to bring this arm back so that it doesn't get trapped. Remember, one of our favorite ways to get out from here is going to be our Gazoni. All right. And so if we allow this guy to start to move our hand without us doing anything, all right, we're going to be in trouble. It's hard for him to Gazoni from his belly. All right. So when guys start to Gazoni from here, what we now have is opportunities for regrabs. All right. So he's got two hands on one, which means I know where everything that he can use is, and I'm going to be regrabbing, breaking this. Now I've got a wrist. Okay. Now, one of the things that's really important about getting a guy flat, is, so I need to turn his hips so that his shoulders turn. All right. So turning his hips to turn his shoulders, or I need to turn his shoulders so that his hips turn. All right. These two things move independently, but just like a car on an axle, if I turn one far enough, the other one's going to have to go as well. All right. So once we get guys broken down, remember our pressure doesn't go straight really from side to side. I want to go diagonal. And so we've got options like lifting at the knee right here. I created a low leg. I'm going to step and hook that low leg. Okay. Staying underneath of his arms allows me to attack wrists, elbows, cross-face cradles. Remember, all of this stuff still requires me to be off of my knees. All right. I can't be wrestling this guy with my knees on the mat here so that he doesn't have any weight, so that when my pressure's coming from left to right, he's going to rotate with me, find the pressure, and start to come back up to his base. All right, so right here, I'm giving him pressure. He rotated away from me. All right, I'm going to be giving this escape up because I wasn't keeping my pressure. I wasn't staying aware. All right, so you've got to make sure that we're keeping that pressure. All right, when we want to start to think about our turns, all right, we've got this guy broken down. All right, we're able to find some hand control, whether it be inside wrist control, whether it be far wrist control, all right, or whether it be 2-on-1s, which are going to be my favorites. All right, these 2-on-1s give you so many options here. We've still got to be keeping the pressure. Now, if we're looking for our tilts or cradles, what we want to do is put our hands in position and then release the pressure. All right. Once we get our hands in position and release the pressure, that's where our turns are going to come from. So I've got Keepway broken down. I'm from Pennsylvania, so I like tilts. So imagine I've got my cross wrist or I've got my 2-on-1. I've been keeping good pressure on this guy. I want to tilt him. It's going to be really hard. So what I'm going to do is my hands are in position. I'm going to take some of this pressure off by putting this knee down right here. And what that should do is that should signal to Keepway, oh, there's no weight. Oh, I should bring my hips up. And that's exactly what I want. This is going to lead me right into my tilts. All right, going to be nice and simple there. Now the same thing, if he's flat and I want to be looking for a cradle, all right, so what I want to do here is use my pressure to get his head towards his knee or force him to turn towards his knee as he's going to come up. So imagine I'm using my underarm on the inside to turn the pressure towards his leg right here. And so as I start to take some of this pressure off by putting my knee on the mat, Keepway starts to come up right there. I release my pressure. There goes my cradle. There go my back points. We'll get into that more in the next lesson. All right, but so for our tilts and our cradles, we're going to have to release the pressure to score. All right, those turns come when our opponent's hips are a little bit off the mat, because we want to get underneath of their hips to turn them whichever way we need to. Now, when we start talking our bars, our Turks, and our halves, we want to keep the pressure on our opponent the whole time. All right? So I got this guy broken down. I did a really good job here. Of doing my job, breaking this guy down, keeping my weight on him, staying off my knees. And so what I want to do now, I want to get my bar arm. And this guy, just like Keepway's doing, he's trying to build his base any way he can. He doesn't want his chest and his chin on the mat. So what he's going to do is start to come up to his elbows. All right. One way to really keep a guy broken down flat is attack his elbows and attack his knees. So as Kibwe goes to build his base, I'm going to be pushing against his elbow. All right. He's trying to bring his knees up. Push against his knee. Okay. He's trying to turn this bottom knee under. See, he's creating the stack knee position for us. Straighten out that leg. All right. That's going to keep his hips flat on the mat. All right. So I'm attacking his knees and I'm attacking his elbows here. Now, when you start attacking guys' elbows and knees, they get really excited to build a base and bring those things in. So if Kibwe builds his base on this side, see how he brings his arm in? This is going to be perfect for my bars. All right. So when I get this guy broken down flat, I'm keeping my weight on him. I'm trying to keep his elbow back. He wants to pull his elbow in, and then I let him pull it in, and there goes my bar. All right. Another cheap way, it's not cheap, another way that I really like to use to get to my bars is I use my opposite side hand as a decoy. All right. So if I reach over Kibwe's body like this, and I start to pull his hand across, he wants to pull it back. And so now I can lift this up, and there goes my bar right here. All right. So now once I get my bar, I'm still keeping my pressure on him. This is where my turns are going to come. Running around his head, all those things that we'll get into for our next lesson. I'm still keeping my pressure on him. Even right here, if I'm going to bar on this side, I never take the pressure off because I'm going to use that pressure to turn him. If I'm running my halves, all right, I've got my short half, which is right on the back of his neck. I can't take my pressure off of this guy. If for 1 second I put my knees down, he's going to turn away. He's going to take out that half, and I'm going to be back to trying to break this guy back down far knees, short claws, things like that. All right, and then the last technique that we had was the first one that I showed, just is keeping this pressure on this guy, right, and getting to our turns. So Kibwe's bringing up this other knee. Remember, if I want to score, I've got to use my whole body. So I'm able to jump to the other side. This inside knee I can lift. I created a low leg. That's going to be my scores. All right. So let's get the last couple of these things written down. We'll wrap up for today. So last couple of things. So we've got our mat returns, we've got our breakdowns. All right, so now, once they're broken down, got to remember pressure, pressure, pressure. Okay? Pressure. Here's where I'm going to write down some of the rules that we're using for our pressure. So, chin over shoulder. And then we've got diagonal, left to right, or stinky knee, front, back to front. Stinky knee, back to front. All right. Underneath both arms. Now, one thing that you've got to develop as a wrestler is a mindset that says, I can stay on top of this person in control for 30 seconds, no matter what. All right, you have to have a 30-second ride. All right, top wrestling should equal a 30-second ride. Now, how long is your double OT period, your ultimate tiebreaker period? It's 30 seconds. So when you're on top, you must know, okay? You must know and be able to say, I can and I will keep this guy down for 30 seconds. Now, for high school wrestlers, you're going to have to put together 4 different 30-second rides. It's a lot harder to keep a guy down for 2 minutes at a time in your brain, right? It's like saying you've got to do a 2-minute sprint versus 4 30-second sprints. All right, breaking it up makes it easier on your brain and your body. So being able to put together multiple 30-second rides is really what it's about, being tough on top. All right, if you can ride them for 30 seconds, then you can ride them for 2 minutes, you can ride them for an hour. All right, it's just how do I piece together these 30-second rides? How many times do I have to mat return before I can get them broken all the way down so that I can start some of my turning technique that's going to allow the time to tick away? If I have a bar in, there's no way that this guy should be able to find a way to get an escape. If I got my cross wrist tilt or my 2-on-1 tilt, I should be able to keep that position for 15 to 20 seconds. All right, and being able to string together these 30-second rides for as long as your period requires you to. All right, so that's our lesson for our basic top wrestling. All right, our mat returns, our breakdowns, our pressure. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for checking in early. I really appreciate you guys supporting this. Just like I said, we're rolling into the last week of the Wrestling Lunch Break group in April. I'm still not 100% sure what's going to happen in May. I've got some ideas, still trying to finalize some details. So if you want to get in on the Rudis shoe raffle with Lucerne Customs, all right, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, and now Zelle. Please donate. $5 donation gets you an entry. So that means you get a brand new free pair of Rudis shoes that get customized. All right. This is a value of about $500, I think, by the time it's all said and done, $400 to $500. All right. So if you're interested, get in on that. Secondly, don't forget, we've got Coach Rivera and Seabass today, and Coach Kindig on Thursday. So I hope you guys are excited to watch those guys spread their knowledge. And then Friday morning, be coming back with another lesson on top. So hope you guys are excited for that. I'm excited for it. Once again, thank you very much. Remember your mindset today. Score the next point. Okay, you can think about that with life. Got to find a way to put another W in the win column. I can and I will do this, and I need to make the next best decision. All right, so hope you guys are staying safe and healthy. I appreciate you and your time. Have a great day. Good luck. Have fun.